Foster is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and I'm proud to join Representative Hill as the other half of the chairman of the AI task force that we're working on. I may be the only AI programmer in the U.S. Congress, so I have to admit that I play around more with TensorFlow than with PyTorch, so sorry about that.
We'll get you over time.
Okay. And as you may know, I'm introducing with Senators Warner and Hawley the Dashboard Act, which provides transparency to consumers and regulators about what data is being collected and also how it is monetized. It also provides limited rights of deletion. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to comment for the record on what you think is the technical feasibility of that, as well as any policy concerns you might have.
Congressman, could you clarify which part you want me to?
The feasibility of the data specification, the collection, delivery to consumers. You know, there's lots of details that have to be filled out in any project like this. You know, how would a consumer authenticate himself to make sure that he's actually looking at his data, and so on. And also, if you have the right to delete, you also have to authenticate yourself appropriately, and that's, a whole bag of snakes, as you're aware. So I'm just wondering, have your staff have a look at that, and if you could get back to us for the record, if you see any technical problems in the implementation of it, because I think it's a good step forward. Okay. Now, you've been asked, and I don't think we've received a clear answer, as to whether or not Libra will allow truly untraceable anonymous transactions. And can we have a clear statement on that? Will it be possible to conduct anonymous transaction using Libra?
So Calibra,
no,
project
Libra,
that Facebook is
Libra,
doing.
Libra.
I think that this is.
If you're an on-ramp onto an anonymous platform that allows anonymous transactions, then there's a whole host of problems. So will Libra allow anonymous transactions?
I think that it is an open question whether we allow.
But you published your code, all right? Your code, you look at your code. If it seems to me, from my looking at the description of the code, that if you have the the private key, you have control of that Libra balance, period, full stop. And that makes it pretty hard. It's equivalent to self-custody. And if you allow self-custody, it's pretty hard to stop anonymous trading. Have I missed something there?
Congressman, I think that this is probably more of a policy issue and question.
No, but as your code currently exists, can you transact anonymously with Libra?
Congressman, it certainly would be possible to build a system that would allow that. I think that there's a policy question about what the restrictions are that need to be placed on that. And there are equities on both sides. If the goal is to enable inclusion, especially in countries where there might not be.
I understand the arguments. I'm just simply asking, as you currently plan, as it currently exists, it seems to me that anonymous transactions are allowed. If there's something wrong with that, I understand you can change the way it operates, but as it currently exists and the code currently exists, I believe it's not possible. If I'm wrong about that, please get back to us for the record. The second thing that you have to come up with an answer to is under what conditions fraudulent or mistaken transactions can be reversed. Now, you mentioned in your testimony that Calibra intends to refund unauthorized transactions, okay? But now, what are the limits to that? For example, if there's $1 million ransomware payment that's made through Calibra, is that something you're going to then refund? What are the limits to that, or are there no limits?
Congressman, I don't know if we've worked out all those policies yet, but our intent and principle here is to be at the level of or exceeding the level that people expect from other payment instruments, whether it's credit cards or other things like that, in terms of fraud protection and consumer protection.
Yeah, but you have to charge something. If you're, depending on what class of fraud you're actually insuring against, then you're going to have to charge someone for it, or it's not going to be a profitable product. And so you haven't thought about what the details, there's nothing you can give us written on what your current plans for when you can reverse fraudulent or mistaken transactions.
Congressman, I'm not saying that we haven't thought about it. What I'm saying is that we haven't nailed down the policy yet. Okay. These specific product policies in Calibra, I think, are downstream to working out an architecture for the overall project that is acceptable to regulators.
From the very start, you have to understand, is there a mechanism to reverse transactions? You know, if, you know, all of these Bitcoin billionaires go around with big security details because if someone puts a gun on their head and says, give me your Bitcoin, it is not a reversible transaction. And so I don't think people want to live in that kind of situation. And so trying to understand, you know, who will provide what guarantees to allow you to reverse a fraudulent or mistaken transaction.
Congressman, Facebook is committed to reimbursing people and figuring out the right policy on that. There may be restrictions like you're asking. We haven't nailed down all of those policies exactly, but the goal is just like when you're using a credit card, you expect the credit card company to pay if there's
Correct, and there are limits on it. There are well-defined legal limits on it. That's why the credit card agreements are so long and no one reads them. All right, thank you. My time's expired.